Good morning and welcome to today's pet pairing. Before we jump into the video, I wanted to give you a heads up that the topic that we're going to be discussing today is not going to be the usual, light chit-chatty type. It's going to maybe be a little bit more of a bummer. So if you're not in a place in your life where you want to talk about bummer topics, this is your cue to just move on to another video. Taking Urban Decay Primer Potion. Today's got the potential to turn into a really crappy day for me. Although I think, once again, makeup will come to my rescue, and we will talk exactly about that later on in the video. But basically, I've already known for a while that the 4th of October is going to be a Wednesday. And Wednesday is usually when I film my pet pairing videos. So I had this whole plan in my head, or idea that because it is the 4th of October, I would maybe like to talk about the bizarre manifestations of grief. And in case you guys were wondering why the 4th of October and what's up with this date, today is the 2-year anniversary since Bruce didn't come home. Taking a short break here. Those of you who have been around my channel for a little bit longer will remember that some years ago I had a beautiful black feline boy, and he would appear often in my videos just in the back sleeping, just as you would now often see Mona and Lisa in the background. But he died exactly 2 years ago, and I had this whole plan in my mind that it might be, interesting for you and therapeutic for me not to talk about what happened. I've never really talked about it because I don't think I can. Not to talk about what happened, but about the bizarre, not the normal manifestations of grief, but the bizarre manifestations of grief. However, I don't know that I can do this on camera without bursting into tears, because I've tried a couple of times to in my head talk about this topic under the shower, and every single time I end up bursting into tears. So I don't think that this is going to work out. So I decided to put a spin on this video, taking Auric Glow Lust. And instead of talking about, grief, I wanted to talk about the power of makeup. But not the power of makeup in the Nikki tutorial sense, like the painting half of your face and not painting half of your face, but in how this seemingly very vain hobby has pulled me out of some really dark times. It has carried me through some really dark moments in my life, because I think this is so important to a lot of us, and a lot of us view makeup in such a different way than most of the world does. And I just wanted to tell you what makeup has done for me in my life to carry me through some really dark moments, including what happened 2 years ago with Bruce. So a lot of you will know that the whole reason, or maybe not, because if you haven't really followed my channel, there is no way you're going to know this, but I've always loved makeup. I've been using makeup since I was allowed to use makeup in high school, basically, and I've always really loved it. But I got a bit more into it in the beginning of 2013, taking 2N Backstage Foundation by Dior, because I was going to get married in May, and I wanted to do my own makeup, but I wanted to do it a little bit more professionally, using, foundation, blush, that kind of thing, products that I had never used before. Basically, prior to 2013, the extent of my makeup was eyeshadows that I would basically use a bit as a liner, and every now and then lipstick and lip gloss. And obviously mascara, but that was it. I didn't use any other products. It was even a huge revelation to me when eyeshadow primer came into my life in the early 2010s. So anyway, I was going to get married, all good. But what was also happening is that I was in the last phases of my PhD. Unfortunately, I was already not paid for that because my contract had ended, but my PhD had not. And a lot of you will not know this if you're not coming from academia, but doing a PhD is probably one of the most mentally taxing, jobs, activities that you can ever choose in your life. I could go on a whole tangent of how academia is so incredibly unprepared to handle the mental health burdens that come with doing a PhD, and how many PhD students around the world are suffering from deep mental health issues. But basically, there are always some sort of, not expectations, but there are requirements depending on the country and the university of what you need in order to finish your PhD. And in the department where I was working, I had to have 2 peer-reviewed published papers and, you know, obviously write my thesis. And in the beginning of 2013, I was busy writing my thesis, but being unemployed, writing my thesis, you know, basically on my savings, was not doing a good job for my mental health. And also, like, chapters of my PhD were basically still missing. They were just still in the works, because you can't, you know, tell experiments to work faster. You have to wait for things, you have to wait for people to respond stuff. It was just taking so much longer than I thought. And unfortunately, it took a real toll on my mental health. So in the summer of 2013, I think I was like, one could say I was basically clinically depressed. I'm going to take the Lancome Tinted Concealer because I think in the end of July, I refused to leave the house for something upwards of a week, like not even to the supermarket. And I was just very like listless. I didn't want to eat. It was bad. And then I decided that I want to quit my PhD. And I don't know if I will be able to convey to you what making a decision like this meant for me at the time, because I had basically dedicated half of my life to becoming a biomedical scientist. Since I decided at the age of 15 that I want to be a scientist, I had dedicated everything to that. I studied really hard, I graduated with really good grades in Bulgaria, I was able to get a scholarship to come to the Netherlands to do my master's. I graduated my master's cum laude, which is, you know, a really big deal if you come from a different country and you're awarded a cum laude in the Netherlands for graduating your master's degree. And then I had pursued exactly what I wanted, PhD studies. So for me to come to the point where basically in my early 30s and after working and dedicating half of my life towards this goal, I wanted to quit, that was bad. Things were. So I went to my supervisor at the time, and like I said, academia didn't and still doesn't offer any sort of help to PhD students who are going through this process. And let me tell you, now that I've been a PhD student myself, I have seen so many after that who in their last year are struggling so much with their mental health. It's actually something I've been thinking about, that I want to maybe put out, at least in our department, that I want people to get help for that, because it is so unnecessary to struggle so much when you could be helped. Because now basically you rely a bit on your supervisor, and depending on how good of a psychologist they are, you will get help, or you will get minimal help, or you will get no help whatsoever. Anyhow, I said I could go on a tangent, and I'm going on a tangent. But basically I went to my supervisor and I told him that I wanted to quit. And what he could at the very least do for me at the time, a friendly Mona has joined us. Anyway, so what he told me at the time, and I think it was the bare minimum that he could offer in terms of like any sort of psychological help, he told me, don't quit now, go home for a few months, don't do anything pertaining to your PhD, do something, you know, that relaxes you, go home, like to your parents in Bulgaria, anything, but don't do anything relating to your PhD, and let's talk again in the fall. So I went home, finding myself with all this like free time that I needed to spend on something, and I had already like really gotten into makeup. I had started purchasing products that I had never used before, and I had also really gotten into reading blogs, because circa 2013 YouTube was still sort of like beauty YouTube was still sort of in its beginnings. It was getting quite a bit of traction, but it was still in its beginning phases, and a lot of people had blogs. So I thought, well, I have all this time, I have this like newfound passion, maybe I should start a blog. And I started my blog, and I also enrolled in a makeup artistry course. I got the diploma, never did anything with that because I figured out that I don't like touching other people's faces, so that's the extent to which that went. But the blog specifically is something I remember so incredibly fondly. I'm going to take the Too Faced Laminating Brow Wax. To this day I actually think that I'm someone who expresses themselves much better in a written form than they do in spoken word, because I think I am much better to be myself. I think I'm funnier when I write. You know, we have to put up with me coming up with things on the spot now because YouTube is the new thing that I do. I think I stopped blogging around 2017 or something. That was maybe the last time I ever posted anything. But my blog at the time was such a good choice for me because first of all, it put my focus onto something that I was really enjoying. And second of all, it gave me a purpose in my days. Planning on what I'm going to blog about, taking pictures, writing the blog post, and then if I had any comments, responding to the comments. And those few months blogging about makeup of all things basically pulled me out of the swamp at the time. Like I could finally like pull myself above the water and take a breath. And then in the fall I went back to my supervisor and I told him that I'm ready to finish my PhD. It still wasn't very easy. In 2014 I also developed a chronic condition with my intestines, a whole other story that I don't want to get into, but at least at the very end of 2014 things were finally shaping up. I even had a defense date, so things were really coming to an end. But all through this time I continued blogging about makeup, and in 2014 I also really got into indie makeup and I was having such a tremendous time with it. It was the time when I discovered Darling Girl and Notoriously Morbid, and I became also like one of the mavens for Notoriously Morbid, and I was just having such an absolutely grand time. For bronzer today I'm going to take the Dior Natural Bronze in the shade Deep, and there is a reason why I'm taking this one, because I'm also going to use my new Dior highlighter in a little bit. So let's stick to Dior as much as we can. Actually, we've already done Dior also for the foundation, and I really love this bronzer. I know I've been using it a lot on my channel lately, but you know, I really enjoy it. And basically, like, there are three like very standout moments in my life when I can think of, you know, my hobby carrying me through some really dark times. And the second time is also an occasion that I have talked about before, which happened in 2018. In 2018 I got pregnant and I stopped posting on my channel because my first trimester was basically an absolute disaster. I had, well, not a disaster. It was, you know, normal morning sickness kind of situation. People can have it much worse than I do, so I don't want to say that it was a disaster. That was not properly worded. But let's say that after that time I went back to doing my channel. I think I had a pretty okay, you know, pregnancy for the rest. I was fine. I was prepared, you know, for being pregnant. I was preparing myself to be a mom. But something that I was not prepared for one bit was what comes right after you give birth. And that's also something that I don't think anyone really talks about a lot, and a lot of women are fully unprepared for what happens, especially in the first few weeks after you deliver. Giving birth went pretty okay. I did need to be put on oxytocin because things were not going fast enough. In the end they had to like cut a little bit because I was not progressing through labor as fast as necessary, and Nicola was starting to be in distress. I lost quite a bit of blood, but like overall things went pretty okay. But because of all of these things, you know, I had the stitches. I had to be put on iron pills because of the blood loss. And one thing that iron pills can do for you is they can cause constipation. And on top of that, I was, you know, about to get my milk, and I don't know that anyone can describe to you how incredibly painful the process of getting your milk is. Your boobs swell up to the size of balloons and they hurt so bad, so bad. And it doesn't last for a very long time, but like for a few days there, I was so deeply frustrated with my body because it wouldn't do anything that I wanted it to do. My milk came in, but it was of very poor quality. It was a very little amount, so unfortunately I was never really able to breastfeed. But this whole just like first week postpartum, I remember as an absolute nightmare. I was an absolute mess. So I don't really have a blush from Dior, so we're going to take the Competition. And also something that I forgot to tell you is that we're going for like a deliciously fall look today. So I'm going to take the most fall blush color that I can think of, which is this beautiful Chanel blush, one of their fall collection blushes. This is in the shade, wait a second, it has some sort of a number, 797 is the name of this blush, and I think actually that maybe you can still find it around the Netherlands in Ivonici and Douglas. But at the same time that I was going through this week, Pat McGrath, whom I had really gotten into just like prior to giving birth, had announced and released her holiday collection. And at the time, her holiday collection were 3 6 eyeshadow pan palettes. I've also talked about this before, so it's possible that, you know, you're detecting some repetition here. But it is an example of, you know, a moment where makeup really carried me through a really hard moment in my life, so I wanted to mention it again. So she had released these 6 pan palettes, and initially I wanted to do the practical thing and wait for a sale before getting them. But then, because I was feeling so incredibly horrible, I was right here in our bedroom, in the dark, laying in bed, feeling sorry for myself, and then at one point I thought, why wait for like a 10% or 20% off sale to save, I don't know, 20 euros when you can have the palettes basically in a few days? Because at the time, Pat's shipping was absolutely spectacular, and you would order on a Friday and get your things on a Tuesday, and have something, you know, that makes you happy and that you can look forward to. And I don't know that I can describe to you how happy getting these 3 palettes made me. I wasn't even able to use them until much later than I received them, because I ordered them, they came in, and I wasn't really putting on makeup yet, I wasn't really going out much yet, but, and that's maybe is going to make you laugh, but I used to like carry the palettes around me, around the house, open them, and just look at them and like shine an artificial light on them so that I can look at all the sparkles, and I would just admire them, and just this process already gave me so much joy, and I still remember it so fondly. Like, it was the moment when I felt so much better. It's so stupid that sparkly powders can make you feel so much better about your day and your life. Okay, and now let's dip into the new highlighter that I bought. This is one of the Dior Forever Couture Luminizers, and I got this one in the shade Nude Glow, which looks like this. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? I've actually swatched these highlighters in store a couple of times, so I knew what kind of texture I was getting myself into. I'm pretty sure that this is a baked gelée, and I've lusted after these for a while, and I made a purchase for a different product from Dior, which we're going to use later as well, but then I got greedy and I thought, why not get the highlighter as well? So let's use the highlighter. I chose for the shade Nude Glow because I thought it might be the most, you know, different from what I have from Pat McGrath, because my Pat McGrath highlighters are essentially what I use like 90% of the time. And I swatched this one quickly yesterday, and it looked like a very pretty color. Yeah, it's just basically like a nudie. It's not really... Oh, I forgot to swatch it, I'm sorry. Let's give it a little swatch just on my hand here so you can see. It's not really any sort of like specific undertone that I can tell. It's not really pink, it's not really peachy golden. It is exactly what it says. It is a very like nude tone of highlighter, which is not something that I necessarily have in my collection, which is why I was so incredibly keen on getting this specific shade. Let me blend this out, but I think you can see it is just very, very smooth. There's really no sparkle to it, it's just a sheen. And you can build it up to be quite a like intense metallic sheen like this, but I think you can also tone it quite a bit down if you go in with a light hand. And I also really like that actually the packaging is different from the one of the bronzer, because the bronzer also has this like fabric on it, this like leathery, faux leathery type fabric. This one also has a faux leather type fabric, but it is shiny. Can you see? So you can actually, first of all, differentiate between the two products based on the packaging. And second of all, it's just cool to have both of these. I think these are so beautiful. I love the packaging of these products. Moving on to the eye look, it's going to feature 3 different palettes. We're going to do Bronze Seduction, Divine Droid, and the golden one, which you've already seen also from the thumbnail. But I'm going to start with Bronze Seduction, and the first shade I'm going to dip into, it is beautiful, like mid-tone, warmer type of brown shade. And while doing the eye look, we can talk about what happened 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, what happened. The actual thing I don't want to talk about, because like I said, it really upsets me. But basically I was in a rather bad shape. And it happened on a Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday I basically spent once again in this bed, not leaving the bed. I just binge watched through Netflix shows, and I was just trying to keep myself distracted at all time because I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I really didn't want to like have too much time to think. Ideally, I would have had, you know, at least until the end of the week to recover, not to recover, but you know, to process this before I'm able to go back to work. But unfortunately, I had to basically pull myself together and go back to work rather fast, because right at the time when it happened, we had just started hosting a guest researcher from a different country who was here to stay for 2 months, and I was helping her out because she was using a methodology that I, you know, kind of set up at the lab, so it sort of like depended all on me. So I had to go back as soon as possible, and unfortunately that meant that I had very little time to, you know, process and to be in the depths of my grief. So then already on Thursday I went back to work. I don't even want to think about what I was looking like because well, actually you can see how I was looking like, because now we're getting to the point of what happened after that. When everything happened, I was in the middle of filming my week of Celestial Odyssey. So the Celestial Odyssey palette, which remains one of my most absolute favorite holiday releases ever from Pat McGrath Labs, had just released, and I was basically doing my week off with the palette, doing looks, and then it happened midway through that, and then obviously I stopped. It's very ironic, you know, that I have such like deep bittersweet feelings about this palette, because on the one hand I absolutely love it, and on the other hand it is now tightly associated with this really negative memory. But anyway, totally different story. But I don't know why I decided on Friday that I want to continue filming, and I think I deep down just wanted to do something normal, and again be distracted but also go back into some sort of normality. And I realized that it would be probably not the most pleasant experience for you, my viewers, to see me in the state that I was in, but I figured, you know, we have this bizarre parasocial relationship and you will probably understand. I'm going to go back into the Bronze Seduction palette and take this deeper brown shade, and that is basically the third time when not only this superficial, vain, shallow hobby, but also all of you on the other side of the screen helped me to get to a very dark moment in my life, because, you know, it could have gone either way. I might have stopped filming for like a month or months, maybe even never gotten into it, but I decided that I wanted to sort of share this moment with you in a way, and also continue do things that feel normal to me. So I came back here and all of you were absolutely amazing. I didn't say anything in the video, I just left like a little text in my description. I never really talked about it, I just said that I was going through something, and you guys were so understanding. Because in the end of the day, a lot of you, you know, you just come here for the makeup. You don't really come here for my personal problems, my personal highs and lows. A lot of people just care about the makeup. They want to be, you know, entertained. They don't want to be burdened by, you know, some random person on the internet's problems. So I would have totally understood if people were like, hey Mariam, maybe you should go through this before you come back on YouTube. But that's not how people reacted, and I think that's because I have a relatively small channel, a very like tight community of people who, you know, a lot of you have become friends over the years. So I got so much support and so many sweet messages from a lot of you 2 years ago. We're taking a short break again. See, and that's why I can't do the manifestations of grief part of this video. Anyway, I'm going to now apply a little bit of the Intensify stick from Pat McGrath all over my lid, because I am going to go in with that beautiful bronzy brown shade from the golden one all over my lid. because I told you that I can't wait to put it in a pet pairing video, especially the not just the palette but also that specific shade. I've been looking forward to wearing it again. So pulling out the golden one and my little flat shader brush, and again I'm going to go in with the absolute lightest hand because this texture remains a little bit tricky for me, and something that I don't think I've ever talked about before, but you know, I received so many comforting words from, you know, my colleagues, my friends, my family, a lot of you here, and I cherish all of them. But one of you will never know, well, you will find out today maybe, that something that one of you said was one of the most comforting things that I heard at the time. And again, because I will not be able to say this without choking, I'm not going to, you know, say what the person said. Maybe someday I will be able to tell you. But basically it was one of your comments that really yeah, provided me with so much comfort. I'm going to do a little bit of blending here through the crease just to mesh all of these gorgeous browns together. So going back to my makeup 2 years ago was one of the biggest reasons that I was able to basically pull through. And today, once again, I think makeup is going to come to my rescue because, like I said, today has the potential to become a pretty crappy day for me if I let myself, you know, think too hard. However, I think my Pat McGrath holiday collection order is coming in later today, to my utter joy. I don't know that I will have any time to play with it because unfortunately tomorrow, Friday, and only coming back on Saturday, I will be going on a work trip to Germany. I'm still considering, if the palettes come in today, whether maybe I want to take 1 or 2 of the queens with me to play around there, but I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm now going to take the Divine Droid quid and we are going to jump into this beautiful lime green shade here. I think this is called Astro Lime. And we are going to, of course, pop that in the inner corners, like inner portion of the lid, because I think it's going to look so pretty with this bronzy shade. So yeah, basically, being in whatever state I was at the time, I went back to YouTube, and both you and I persevered through those first few weeks when I looked like absolute crap, and we made it through. I continued doing my channel. You didn't have to put up with me looking like crap anymore after a few months. And you know, after that I haven't really talked much about him or what happened, and like I said, I don't want to, because it's not going to do anyone any good. But yeah, I just wanted to. And also in the context of something that I actually read yesterday. So yesterday I read like randomly on the news that Pamela Anderson decided to appear makeup free on like a runway show or something, and people were like really praising her for this choice to not wear makeup and just go makeup free, which, you know, perfectly fine for her. I have absolutely no comments on Pamela or how she chooses to appear in public, but there were so many people commenting underneath that news piece who were basically saying that, oh, nobody needs to wear makeup, your skin will actually look better if you don't wear makeup, and all of that kind of other crap that I think a lot of you and I have had to put up with. And that always just like really grinds my gears, because what people don't understand is that makeup can be so much more to people than just a way to disguise their face. Like, for all of us here, it is our passion and our hobby. And the thing that irritates me is that if someone asks you what your hobby is, I'm, by the way, now going to take the Bronze Seduction palette, and of course we're going to do a little bit of layering. I'm going to take a little bit of the absolutely gorgeous VR Fire Opal to layer a little bit over that bronzy brown shade. But if you were to tell people that your hobby is painting, no one would bat an eyelash, and they will be like, oh great, what a fantastic hobby. But as soon as you say that your makeup is painting your face, people immediately start judging. And they don't understand how much more painting your face can be than just, you know, disguising your features, which is, I think, what none of us here are actually doing. But anyway, I also wanted to mention that in the context of this also like recent piece of news that I read. Like a warm bronzy brown and a lime green is one of my favorite things in life. For my lower lash line, I'm going to actually go back into the Divine Droid Quint, and I'm going to take the brown that is situated in here, and I'm just going to complete my lower lash line with that. And I'm probably going to put Burnt Umber from Lisa Eldridge in my waterline, because I think it is the perfect finishing touch. Taking Burnt Umber from Lisa Eldridge to run here on my waterline. Oh yeah, it is absolutely the perfect color to finish this look off. Beautiful. We're actually going to finish off the look together because the other new product that I picked up is a Dior lipstick. But before we get into the Dior lipstick, I'm going to apply my lip primer, and I'm also going to line my lips with the Lisa Eldridge Cinnabar lip liner. And the Dior lipstick in question is the shade Tartan, which Martina hasn't been able to shut up about already for weeks. I don't know if Martina is going to watch this video, but Martina, if you're watching this video, this is like 120% your fault. And there's really only so much self-control that a girl can have. So I finally decided to pick this lipstick up. Actually, this is my very first Dior lipstick, and I am quite enjoying this beautiful little piece of packaging. It is absolutely beautiful. I really like it, very luxurious. And then yesterday I was like trying to press the button, thinking like, why the hell is the lipstick not coming out? No, you have to like pull it out like this. So the shade Tartan is essentially a warm chocolate brown cinnamon kind of brown, which is why it was so easy to convince me to buy this lipstick, because it seems a little bit like the shiny, like lip balmy type lipstick version. Like imagine the luxuriously loosened version of Cinnabar, which is why I actually want to swatch this next to Cinnabar. So this is the shade Tartan from Dior, because I am curious how similar they're going to be. I'm pretty sure they're going to be super similar. Yeah, this is basically the more saturated, you know, velvet matte version of this lipstick. And I do have the lip gloss from Lisa Eldridge in the shade Cinnabar, but I've always wanted to have like the luxuriously loosened version of it, and this is basically the luxuriously loosened version of Cinnabar, and I can't wait to put it on. Something that I will say is this has I think a caramel sort of scent to it. And I tried it on yesterday, like I wore it around to the house for a little bit, and the scent was so strong that it remained for a while. So if scents are something that you're really sensitive to, this one is a little bit of a question mark. It is a bit of a question mark for me too, because I'm not used to my lipsticks, you know, having such a strong scent to them for such a long time. So in terms of formula, this is very nourishing, very hydrating, very balm-like, but it also has quite a good punch of pigmentation. You can really build it up to be like basically an opaque color, and it has this beautiful shine on it. So I'm really hoping that it's going to wear a little bit like the luxuriously loosened formula from Lisa Eldridge, where it fades out quite gracefully from your lips. But it feels very comfortable. Like I said, the only thing is that it has quite a strong scent to it, and I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know whether I feel very positive about it. Other than that, I think the color is absolutely gorgeous. It is very much my kind of fall lipstick color, which is why I didn't need much convincing to purchase it. And I'm also happy to have lipstick from Dior, because I have a lot of makeup from Dior that I've really been enjoying. I think it's slowly turning to one of my favorite like luxury brands for makeup. But anyway, I want to close this video off because I actually need to get to work at some point. Yeah, spoken word, not my forte. I would probably have expressed all of these thoughts much better if I were to blog about them, but nobody got time for that. So I hope that this video was somewhat coherent and somewhat enjoyable for you, even if it was a little bit more of a bummer topic. As usual, thank you so much for watching and, you know, being so empathic and always being here for me. I really appreciate it, and I will probably see you after I return from Germany, when we're going to play around with the new McGrath Bijou Brilliance holiday collection. Bye!